Hi everybody, this is a video for a peanut butter chicken that I made today. It is pretty simple, in fact it's really easy to make. So I'm just going to go through the ingredients and the method. So in my measuring jug I've got peanut butter. I've used chunky peanut butter because I wanted to have the large chunks of peanuts in my sauce. You can use smooth if you just want the flavour rather than the texture as well. So I'm using one, it's quite thick and sticky, 2, 3 heaped spoons of peanut butter for my sauce. Now bear in mind I am making this recipe for 4, probably actually 5 portions. So if you don't need as much as that, if you're only making it for yourself or for maybe 1 or 2 people, then you would probably want to cut this recipe down in half. So I've used 3 heaped spoons of chunky peanut butter, and now I'm going to use lazy garlic. So lazy garlic I think is the best thing in the world. It stops your fingers from getting smelly when you chop your garlic up. So I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of lazy garlic. It's already chopped up for me. You can chop up a clove of garlic as well if you want. You probably would want 2 cloves if you're making the same quantities as what I am. So it's 1 teaspoon of lazy garlic, 2 large spoons out of your drawer, dessert spoons of soy sauce. Now this mixture's not going to look very nice. Peanut butter doesn't look very nice in the first place, so when you start adding other things to it, it definitely doesn't look nice either. But once it's all together and once it's all in its nice curry sauce, it tastes amazing. Okay, I've got curry powder now. And I quite like my food quite spicy, so you might want to use less curry powder than what I am. But I'm going to put in 1 heaped, 2 heaped, 3 heaped teaspoons of curry powder. But like I say, I do like my food quite spicy, and there was a bit of a kick to this curry, so you maybe want to cut down on that. I've got a full tin of chopped tomatoes, so you might only need half a tin depending on how many people you're making the recipe for. So like I said, this will feed 4, maybe 5 people, depending on the size of your portions. I'm just giving it a good mix through. So this is what's going to make my sauce. I'm going to put some chilli puree in here as well. So it's just chopped up chilies. So again, just to save me a little bit of work, and it stops my fingers from getting chili all over them, which can then end up in your eyes. So it's just an easy way of using chilies, and I use shortcuts like this all the time at home. You might want to include the practical skills of chopping these things up, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. If you've got access to these ingredients, like a chilli or fresh garlic, then go for it. Get them all chopped up nice and small. Made a bit of a mess of my board here, so I'm just going to clean that up. And I'm going to start preparing my onion. Now I'm only putting a red onion in my curry. You could put any vegetables in yours if you want. You could have peppers through it. You could have some green beans through it. You could have whatever you want, really. Sometimes water chestnuts are quite nice to go through a curry. But I found a red onion, so that's what I'm going to use today. So I'm keeping the root on the onion, and I was just showing you there that I'm cutting the papery tail off. That's the bit we can get rid of. And I'm keeping the root that holds the onion together on at all times, because if I chop that part off, the hairy head or the root of the onion, then the onion will fall apart when I'm trying to chop it up. So my root's still on, and I'm now peeling my onion. It's much easier to peel an onion if you've cut it in half first. And you always cut it in half once through the root. you don't do it through the equator, through the middle of the onion, because you need to have a piece of root on either side of the onion or your onion will fall apart. Dropped a wee bit on the floor there. I'm just picking that up to make sure nobody slips. And now I'm going to put the tip of my knife just behind the root of the onion and pull right down through all the layers in nice thin slices, as close together as I can. The closer together my cuts are, or my slices are, the smaller my dice is going to be. I'm just going to turn around so that you can see a bit better on the camera. So I'm following the lines all the way down. And I'm going to do that with both halves of my onion to start with. I always find it easier to prepare all of your vegetables in the same way, and then do your next stage when you are ready to move on. So I'm using a full onion. Again, mine's is maybe more of a quantity than what you might need. You might only want half. And then I'm turning my onion to the side and chopping along the other direction to get fine dice. Now, I actually really like onion. I think onion's a great ingredient, and personally I would actually like bigger chunky bits of onion in my curry. Like if you get a Chinese curry and sometimes you get big bits of onion in your curry, I love that. But other people in my household don't. So that's why I'm chopping them up really nice and small so that they basically disappear in the sauce. So they'll give it flavour, but they won't give much texture. Nobody's going to notice that they're in there. That's a really good tip for children. You can hide vegetables very easily by chopping them up nice and small. I've got a lime here as well, and that's just to give an extra little bit of flavour. Again, it's not really that important in the recipe. If you don't have any limes in the house, don't worry about it. I've usually always just got a couple in my fruit bowl, so I'm just going to use it. I'm chopping it in half and just leaving it just now, and I'm putting all of my peelings into the bin. That is my vegetables prepared, ready for my curry. I've got some corn flour here, which I actually forgot to add to my sauce, so I'm just going to add that into the measuring jug just now. And what corn flour does is it thickens the sauce up. So sometimes you find that a curry sauce can be quite watery and runny. So I personally quite like quite a thick curry sauce. So I'm going to put in here 1, 2, 3 spoons of corn flour. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm putting 4 in. 4 spoons of corn flour, and that will help to thicken my curry sauce up whilst it's cooking. I've got quite a large pan, again, because the amount of curry I'm making, I've got quite a lot that I'm making. This is quite a good wee tip. If you move your chopping board to the edge of your worktop, then you can scoop your ingredients into the pot rather than picking them up one by one or spilling them all over the place. It's quite an easy way of doing that. So that's my onions in the pot. Now, you don't need to use red onion as well. I should have made that point. It can be any onion you want. It could just be a normal white onion. It was just a red onion that I had in my vegetable rack. Put a little bit of oil in there, 15 mils of oil I've put in, which is just a drizzle of oil. And I'm now putting that onto the gas cooker. Now, you can't see that either. If you've got an electric cooker, that's okay as well. I'm putting it on my gas hob on a low heat, and I'm going to give it a stir every now and again. So what I'm doing there is I'm sweating the onions off. I just want them to go nice and soft. So like I said, not a lot of people in my household like onions, so I'm just going to sweat them off so they're really soft and nobody actually realises they're there. I'm moving my limes off of my board because I'm now going to prepare my chicken, and we all know that we don't want to cross-contaminate the bacteria from the raw chicken to our fruit or vegetables. Now, I personally don't like touching chicken very often, so I always use a fork and knife to prepare my chicken. And we know that bacteria, there is bacteria in raw chicken or on raw chicken that can be quite harmful to us. It can cause food poisoning if we eat any chicken raw or if we get this bacteria in our mouths. So we always have to make sure we wash our hands thoroughly after we have handled this chicken. Now, I'm not really touching the chicken at all here, but I still wouldn't take the chance. I would always make sure that I do wash my hands after I've chopped my chicken up. Now it's okay for me to use this chopping board because I've already prepared my vegetables. If I had done my chicken first and then wanted to prepare my onion and my lime, then I would need to wash my chopping board unless I had another one that I could use. But in my house I've only got one chopping board and it's the one that I use all the time. But I always just prepare my vegetables first and then I move on to my raw meat after that. So everything's prepared before I start cooking. I'm just chopping my chicken into bite-sized pieces. And I've got 3 breasts of chicken there. They're really quite big breasts as well. Again, because I'm making my recipe for 4, maybe even 5 people, depending on how much it ends up making. My onions are now soft. And I'm putting my chicken that I've chopped up in with my onions. And we're going to brown our chicken. So basically what that means is we want the chicken to turn to a white colour. So that doesn't mean that it's cooked all the way through. It doesn't mean that we can then eat that chicken. What it does mean is the outside of the chicken has been sealed and we're ready to move on to the next stage once we've got to that part. So I'm giving it a little stir round and I'm going to continue to cook that on a low to medium heat. And if I feel that it's starting to stick, then I'm going to turn my heat down under the pan. And if I feel like it's not doing very much, I'm going to turn it back up. And then fast forward about 5 minutes. And here we go. I've now got my browned chicken and I'm ready to put my sauce in with that chicken. So I've got my chicken that's browned. I've got my onions that are nice and soft. And I'm pouring all of the ingredients out of my measuring jug. And I'm making sure I scrape all of the ingredients from the very, very bottom, so some of it will be stuck in the bottom, and that's all the flavour. So you really want to make sure that you get all that flavour out of the measuring jug. Don't leave any of it stuck in there. Then I'm going to give it a really good stir through, and I'm going to add in 250 mils of water. And that 250 mils of water is just going to loosen the sauce up. At the moment it's quite a thick sauce, and I've also added my corn flour as well, so I want to make sure that I add a little bit of water, so just 250 mils of water whilst it's cooking, so that it doesn't go too thick, so that my sauce isn't too thick. So I'm now going to leave that to cook on a low to medium heat. I'm happy with that, obviously. A low to medium heat with my lid on, and it's going to cook for about 20 minutes. Now whilst that's cooking, I'm actually going to prepare some cauliflower rice. Now cauliflower rice it's a relatively new thing, but I eat it all the time. So rice, normal cooked rice, normal basmati rice or long grain rice, is a carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are very high in energy. And if we don't use all that energy, then it can be stored in our body as fat, which could result in obesity. So I am just going to make some cauliflower rice, which has got quite a similar texture to normal rice. And I just love the flavour of it, so I make it all the time actually. So it's really good if you are trying to cut down on your calories, which I am at the moment. And if you want to have a different kind of flavour to your curry as well. So I'm going to make myself some cauliflower rice, but I'm going to make everybody else normal basmati rice with their curry, because they're not very keen on the cauliflower rice, just because it's a bit different, I think. But I really love it. So I've bought myself this little food processor. It's just a teeny tiny one, and it's for this very reason. It's just for chopping up vegetables really, really small. You don't have to use this. You could grate this cauliflower using just your normal grater, or you could just chop it up really, really small, as long as it's really fine. So my little food processor, I love this. I use it all the time. The lid just goes on, and I press the button on the top, and it whizzes the cauliflower up with the blade that's inside. And then my cauliflower is really nice and fine and small, and it's ready to move on to the next stage. Now I haven't shown you this next stage because all it is I've put the cauliflower into a pan, just into a normal pot, and I've put in 10 mils of oil, and I've just cooked it with a lid on for about 5 to 8 minutes until the cauliflower is really nice and soft. And then once that's finished, my curry sauce should be just about finished as well, and everything is ready at the same time. I'm just spooning my cauliflower into the pot. Don't forget to put a lid on it because that'll keep all the moisture in the pot as well. It'll stop it from sticking to the bottom. And I'm putting it on a low heat until the cauliflower is cooked through. Now, remember, you don't have to make cauliflower rice. It's just something that I like. You could make normal rice. I've made rice loads and loads of times in school, so you should know how to do that okay. You're just cooking it for about 12 minutes in boiling water. I'm now going to put my lime into my curry sauce. Sounds a bit weird, but I really like the flavour. It gives it a bit of a kind of sour flavour to my curry. It gives it a little bit something a bit different. And I'm just squeezing it over the top of my curry, and I'm doing that with both halves of my lime. Because the peanut butter can be quite a savoury flavour, so you do want something kind of sweet and soury in there as well, and that's why I add my lime to it. You could put a bit of lemon juice in as well if you wanted. Give it a good stir, and I should be ready to serve. Oh, I'm going to taste it first. I'm going to give it a little taste to make sure that it doesn't need any seasoning. So seasoning, we would say, would be salt and pepper. I've tasted it and I have decided that it needs a little bit of salt. It's really important to do that because if you then serve your dish and you're not happy with it because you haven't seasoned it properly, you're going to be a bit upset about that. So you want to make sure that you're happy with it before you serve it. So I've put a little bit of salt in, given it another wee stir. Make sure you don't put the same spoon back in to taste it again, because if other people are eating out of are eating your curry, then you don't want to cross-contaminate your bacteria to the food. I'm now going to serve by putting my cauliflower rice at one side of my bowl. So we always want to make things look quite nice on the plate. Even in the house I do this. I do always make my food look as nice as I can on the plate. I wouldn't just throw it all on there. And then I'm going to spoon my curry on the other side of my cauliflower rice. I've made a little bit of a mess of my plate there. Slithered it down the side. So I always like to, like I say, make everything look as nice as I can. So I'm giving it a little wipe so that my plate is cleaned down. You should always do that. You wouldn't want to go to a restaurant and find that you've got finger marks all over the plate or things have been messily served. Then I've got a little bit of coriander that I've chopped up. You can put anything fresh and green on there. It just gives it a little bit of colour. And that's what's called your garnish. And I am pleased with that. And I have to tell you that was fab. Really enjoyed that curry. So hope you guys do too. Enjoy!